Hi there! In my previous video presentation, I discussed the early history of stop-motion animation. While it is not necessary to watch my previous presentation in order to follow this one, it does provide some helpful background information about how stop-motion animation all began. That said, today's presentation is a timeline format of the progression of stop-motion animation, all the way from the early 1800s to present day in quarter-century increments. Without further ado, let's jump back into the 1800s. Stop-motion animation, at least as far as records go, began with Blackton and Smith's The Humpty Dumpty Circus. As aforementioned in the early history of stop-motion animation video, which acts as somewhat of a part 1 to this presentation, The Humpty Dumpty Circus is a lost film which we now only have written record of. The only description that we have of how the film was made was that Blackton and Smith used a circus toy set and their daughter's dolls to make the film. We also know that this film was made in 1898. While there is no way to examine the animation methods used for the footage, we can still make note of the fact that animators Blackton and Smith used dolls with movable limbs to mimic lifelike behavior. While primitive in nature, this technique is not too far off from the different tactics used by stop-motion animators today. Many stop-motion animated films made from the early 1900s to 1920s used only small segments of actual stop-motion material. These films would usually be almost entirely live-action footage with a few short scenes of stop-frame animations. Additionally, these productions lacked synchronized sound because they were made during the silent era of film. As can be seen in Edwin Porter's The Teddy Bear, created in 1907, the film's main character is an actual person who plays Goldilocks. There is roughly a minute-and-a-half long scene of stop-frame animated teddy bears dancing around. The entire film lasts only about 13 minutes, with the majority of the film being live-action footage. In Willis O'Brien's The Lost World, which became the first feature-length stop-motion film, we once again see the use of short scenes that are animated with stop-motion, with the rest of the film being live-action footage. While The Lost World was the longest film that had been produced using the stop-frame technique during this time, the animated scenes were still only a little under 2 minutes long. Of course, there are a number of reasons as to why it was so difficult to create an entirely stop-motion animated film, especially a feature-length one. The entire process of stop-motion animation, from finding or making the movable objects to the moment it can be shown on screen, takes a lot of time and patience. This is the primary reason why stop-motion films during this time were short in either its overall duration or the duration of the scenes that use stop-frame animation. After the release of The Lost World, stop-frame animators were inspired by the techniques used by O'Brien. Even O'Brien himself was inspired by The Lost World to create his biggest hit, King Kong, in 1933. The stop-motion animated films that came out during this period can be characterized by their addition of color and synchronized sound, longer productions that were entirely stop-motion animated, and the combination of live-action footage with stop-motion footage. In 1930, Władysław Stadowicz released the film The Tale of the Fox. This film became Stadowicz's first feature-length film, which casted voice actors to synchronize verbal scripts with the animated characters. The Tale of the Fox soon became Stadowicz's most successful film. George Pal's Puppet Tunes were stop-motion animated shorts made during the 1940s by, you guessed it, an animator named George Pal. Pal used a form of stop-motion animating referred to as replacement animation, which is a technique that he invented himself. This technique involves creating multiple sculpted elements that can be switched around for different scenes. This means that instead of having one malleable sculpture for a particular character or object, there would be multiple renditions of sculptures made to create varying facial expressions or other natural forms of movement. Pal used replacement animation for over 40 short films that he created for Paramount Pictures from 1941 to 1947. Jerzy Trinka was a Czech animator who was commonly referred to as the Walt Disney of Eastern Europe. Jerzy's main influence on the world of stop-motion animation is that he transformed the connotation of stop-motion from being related to a children's form of entertainment to a more sophisticated one that could be enjoyed by adults as well. He achieved this by making his animations visually appealing and detailed, and also creating stories that were more serious or adult-like in content. From the invention of the replacement animation technique to the incorporation of more details in the sculptures and background, this period in the 1900s produced a lot of advancements for the art of stop-motion animation. Most stop-motion films from this point onward focused on further developing techniques that had already been invented. Some of the things that became more refined during this era were the claymation technique and the image quality of animated films. Gumby is a claymation character that is considered to be a classic by many. This character was created by an animator named Art Clokey in 1955. The series ran all the way until 1988 on the Howdy Doody network, but it did not stop there. Since 1955, 234 episodes of Gumby have been released, and they eventually made a movie as well. I'm sure you know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, but did you know that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer came out in 1964 and has aired every single year since? This stop-motion film was produced by Rankin-Bass Productions and has clearly been a hit. This movie has provided comforting holiday nostalgia for many and continues to be a beloved classic film. Likewise to the previous period of time I discussed, the late 70s, 80s, and 90s era of stop-motion animation is primarily characterized by the increase in quality rather than the creation of new techniques. A different realm of animation that I've yet to venture into is stop-motion animation used in music videos. In 1986, after collaborating with animators Nick Park and Aardman Animation Studio, a music video for the song Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel came out, and it used stop-motion animation to animate varying aspects of the video, from the background to objects flying around Peter. The process took 16 hours to do, but the video went on to become the, quote, most awarded video ever at the VMAs. Tim Burton and Henry Selick's The Nightmare Before Christmas was released in 1993 and was the most advanced stop-motion animated film to date. Bringing the story of Jack Skellington to life took over 100,000 frames, 120 workers, and 20 different sound stages. All of the effort that went into creating this film was well worth it in the end, not only because of the amazing art that Burton and the rest of the team was able to make, but also because they profited nearly $60 million from it. This film took $18 million to make, and it grossed $76.2 million after its release. Just a minute ago, you heard me mention the studio Aardman Animation. While this studio got a bit of fame from their help in creating the Sledgehammer music video, the biggest production that helped them get their name out was a 30-minute stop-motion short film called The Wrong Trousers in 1993. This short film was part of their Wallace and Gromit shorts, which centered around a handyman and his dog. In 2000, Aardman Animation partnered with DreamWorks and created their first feature film, which was titled Chicken Run. Chicken Run's animation style was very similar to Aardman Animation's previous works, which was mostly claymation. This feature film was very successful and brought in $224 million worldwide. Stop-frame animation today is still a tedious process, but the efficiency of stop-motion has come a long way from the days of the Humpty Dumpty circus. These days, digital cameras, tripods, and editing softwares all make the process of stop-motion animation go a lot smoother. In 2009, the movie Coraline by Henry Selick was released after 4 years of hard work. Selick wanted the other world in this film to appear 3D, so to achieve this effect, he spaced objects farther apart as the scenes progressed, which made the film look as though it was gaining more depth. Selick and his team also made each character's costume by hand. This personalized attention to detail helped the quality of the movie even more. Another fairly recent stop-motion film that has come out since 2000 is Frankenweenie. Tim Burton has been a part of numerous stop-motion animated films, with the most recent one being a parody of the film Frankenstein. Frankenweenie came out in 2012, but Burton wanted the film to have an old classic style to it. He filmed the movie in black and white, then edited the film to make it three-dimensional. While Frankenweenie still utilized stop-motion filming, Tim Burton also used CGI to add extra details to the film. Stop-motion animation is not as commonly seen today because there are quicker and more advanced options for filming, but there are still animators who prefer this unique method. Some animators even use modern filming technology to manipulate their productions into appearing as though it was created using stop-motion, such as the creators of the show South Park. For more information on how stop-motion animation has progressed, visit these websites. That's a wrap on this video presentation. I hope you enjoyed and thank you for watching.